Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast podcast, YouTube video interview program that features me talking to some of the best and brightest in the atheist/secular/awesome community. This is episode number 213. I recorded this interview on February 15th, 2020. Thank you to Dr. Marissa Richmond for being on a couple weeks ago. I'll be in Nashville this upcoming weekend, so hopefully we'll meet up since there's a big soccer match. You know, people assume you're one thing and then you decide to go to a soccer match, and it's like my computer deciding if it's going to let me open one more tab. Probably not. I was nervous about going left at the Valley. It feels like politics will be the death of us when, newsflash folks, it's always been a shit show. What's not a shit show, excellent segue there buddy, is the Left at the Valley production. Half hangout session, half interview, and all Canadian. It works even though they just smoked pot that one time. Nancy is the sort of not really just genetically Jewish woman who may or may not be an assassin of bacon. Kirstin talks about religious people, yet as the one non-former Christian of the three. Kristina used to be evangelical and is my pick for first member of the show to get on stage for karaoke night. We talked, we laughed, we cried, I drank. How did they all meet? Cute. What is it like to record starting at 9 in the morning, and when is it good to be 7 degrees outside? You'll find that out and more. Let's start the conversation.
It makes no difference which one of us you vote for. Either way, your planet is doomed. Doomed!
Welcome to the Zachrilege Cast! Ladies of Left at the Valley. Okay, so from my massive research of about 2 episodes, I'm going to try to do an introduction for all of the ladies today. So we have Nancy might murder me with bacon. I'm assuming this is going to be a huge revenue stream in the future, considering America.
There you go.
That sounds better.
Glad to be here, and thanks for the lovely introduction.
Sure. So Dave Daubenmeier is either going to hire a lawyer to get a restraining order against Kirstin or get an exorcism.
Yeah, probably. I there's a few that I tend to pick on. But, you know, it's only because they're so insane.
And Kristina quit her job just to be on today's show. It's okay, though, because she lives in Canada where everyone gets free Tim Hortons, which is no longer Canadian. That joke needs some more workshopping. So welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for asking us on.
Yeah. We always love talking about ourselves.
Well, the thing is, I'm lazy when it comes to reaching out to guests. And I was like, you know, I've had like one person on from certain shows and not the other people. And I've seen that, you know, Kevin, Mr. I control the microphone guy, is always the one to represent Left at the Valley, Canadian's #1 podcast, apparently, right?
Yeah, my daughter asked me if there was only one show in Canada. That makes
Oh, wow.
Oh, man.
In the gut.
It's the one who loves you the most who hurt you the most.
Yeah, exactly.
What got you 3 involved in this show? I probably should remember this from interviewing Kevin, but that was like 2 years ago. So how did you get into the show?
Well, I'll since I'm the oldest member other than Kevin, I'll take that one. Kevin and I belong to an atheist group that met once a week, and it was really a great conversational group, and Kevin took the lead in that in a lot of different ways, and he was an activist. But there were a lot of people who just really wanted to talk, and he wanted to do things. And I think one of his dreams was to do a podcast. And after about a year into the group, he decided he was actually going to do it, and he got the equipment, and he worked out things in his mind about how he wanted it done. And right from the beginning, he wanted to have guests. And I was one of the first, not the first, but I was one of the first guests that he had, along with a friend of mine, because we were working on trying to establish a village for the homeless here in Abbotsford. And I was a little reluctant to get on because I thought, oh man, Kevin's so smart, and I'm going to bumble and babble, and I'll make a mess of things. And I did, but Kevin forgave me and had me on again. And then after a while, he wanted to expand the show and change it a little bit, and asked several of us out for coffee and said, would you like to be part of the crew? But you got to make a commitment. And I said, gee whiz, I love Kevin. I love what he's doing. I support him. And I think I can do this. And there I am. And from, I think, 2014, Kevin? Something like that? Yeah. I've been a happy camper ever since.
He stayed mute. It's impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
Well, and I guess I am the next one that joined.
Yep.
I actually met Kevin through the same kind of like meetup group thing. I was relatively recently out of fundamentalist Christianity, so any chance I could be around other people was such a lifeline for me. And during these like hangouts at coffee, we would talk about podcasts because there were only a few of us that like really listened to atheist podcasts. And so that was something that we really connected over. And then what got me on the show was Tom and Cecil were coming on. I'm pretty sure to talk about citation needed. And it
You went nuts.
was like they're one of my favorite podcasts. So any chance of being able to talk to them, I was like all about it. And then I just kind of stuck around, and I've been around since.
And I guess for me, I kind of followed along with Kristina to the atheist meetups. And then I think it was right after the Canada Day show that you did. And I'm like, I would have had so much fun on that show, on that episode. And then I started coming and just kind of hanging in the background. And then Kevin forced a mic in my face. And then he forced a segment on me. And well, I'm still here. Here I am.
It's been wonderful ever since.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes, it has.
This is great camera work, by the way.
I know, right?
He's doing such a fantastic job.
I feel like he's found his true calling. And I do want to say, I don't think I highlighted the beer I had last time. So, Dragon's Milk. And Kevin is going, it's going to be a special episode, people.
Oh.
It's a Saturday afternoon. Well, it's like noon where you are, right? And it's 3:00 where I am. And I'm like, sure, of course, time to open a beer.
Now I want to go home and drink.
I am awake. Therefore, yes.
I thought you were going to go home and play video games.
Yeah, you can do them both at the same time.
You're right. And
Makes everything more fun.
mm-hmm.
So what were all of your, I think we had one fundamentalist Christian, what were all the religious backgrounds that you had? I know this could be like a whole episode in itself, but
Yeah.
That could be a whole episode just on Kristina.
Yeah, I know, right?
But I didn't have a religious upbringing at all. It was kind of just really nothing, not even strictly atheist per se. So I just kind of became aware of like, oh, I'm an atheist after I moved in with Kristina. Or well, I
I'm
should
like,
say,
you're an atheist.
yeah, she told me I was an atheist. I'm like, okay, sure, why not? And now I'm like, yeah, no, religious people are
Gross.
I'm like, no, just keep it to yourselves, people. Keep it to yourselves.
Yeah.
Well, I was born in a Jewish home, but there really wasn't any religion in it, which was kind of funny, really, because with my grandparents we observed a lot of the Jewish holidays and observances, but there was everything that was Jewish in our house except God. It was never mentioned, and so I didn't realize that there was a God. I didn't understand anything about religion itself because we were very secular. And it wasn't until I got into grade school and high school that I realized that people went to church and they had God and they believed in it. But at that point, it was fundamentally out of my my realm of beliefs. So I essentially have been an atheist all my life, but it was difficult for me to use the word for a while. I always liked the word agnostic and felt more comfortable with it. I was a Unitarian Universalist for a long time and was very comfortable with agnostic until I realized, no, I think I'm probably 9 on the scale, 9+. So I think I'm more atheist than I am agnostic.
Yeah.
does seem to be a thing about the Jewish faith. I mean, I had on a friend who's still in the Jewish faith, but it's really like, it's weird. It's interesting that in the Jewish faith is like, I'd say like at least half are just like, I don't really believe it, but I'm just kind of like, we do these things and it's a tradition. And so here we are.
I think that's it. Tradition means an awful lot. Tradition and heritage. I got into this argument with my brother the other day because he was asking me, well, what is it that you really like about Judaism since you consider yourself an atheist? So off the top of my head, I said, well, I like bagels and I like deli food. And he immediately tore into me that I didn't get into the ethical foundation of society comes from Judaism and so forth.
God.
And I thought, yeah,
boy.
I still like bagels and deli food, and I'm okay with the tradition.
I mean, food in general is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think for
I heard the noise. Was that the sound of God coming in to take us down? What's going on?
what happened? My religious upbringing is a can of worms.
A big one.
I was raised in a Mennonite church. Well, for our area, it's like our mega church. Compared to American mega churches, it's probably not that mega. But it was very like growing up, it was very much like the earth is 6,000 years old and you have to like sorry, it's hard to I'm sorry, it's hard to like go back there and try to translate it.
See,
we went more than 10 minutes into this episode without a sorry from Canada, so good work.
One word funny, I literally didn't even realize I just said sorry. I'm like, wait, I said sorry?
I'm president.
It's just like breathing out, probably. It's like, I just apologize in case.
But it was very entrenched. I didn't even understand that there were people who didn't believe in God. Like, it didn't even come into my conscious awareness that atheists existed or other religions existed. Like, I didn't know about Mormonism, not Mormonism. I didn't know about Mormonism or like Muslim or like I didn't even know Judaism existed. Like, I just didn't know anything other than our specific slice of Christianity existed. And I was also homeschooled for quite a few years. So that made my education entrenched in that religion as well. So I didn't really get taught science, which was a super big bummer now that I'm not religious and absolutely love science. I'm like, I missed out on so much. And then we stayed going to Mennonite churches, but we went to a different one and it was kind of not big in the churches for a little while because my dad had medical issues that made us not be able to go every week. But throughout it all, I was very much didn't even question like religion or God. And it was very much on that like, oh, you have to have a personal relationship with him. And you have to like, talk with him about everything. And like we spoke in tongues and it was a fun deal. And it got to the point where everything in my life that was good, I put on God. I was like, oh, thank you, God, for like helping me get out of bed today. Because I was so trained in that religious mind frame of everything good is God. But everything bad that happens, it happens for a reason. You just don't understand it. It's like beyond your understanding. And there's something good that will come out of it. So I was around, how old was I? It was February when I was 18.
Many years ago.
So about 6 years ago that it was actually one conversation I had with my twin sister that I went from like not having a shred of doubt to being like, oh, God's not real. Okay. And it was actually one specific thing that she told me. in this conversation we were having, she told me that I sounded like a battered wife talking about her husband. And for some reason that wording, it flipped a switch and it made me recontextualize everything I had heard and was saying and actually question. And through the next 3 days, I listened to a few podcasts on Christianity and like started to actually like understand what this religion was. Because also I had never read the Bible like every other Christian around. I had gotten like a few pages into Genesis and I was like, well, this is boring. Won't read this. Because like I had only ever done like Bible studies where like they had this specific set out, okay, read this passage and these will explain this, but they don't like show it in context of the Bible and at the horribleness of it. Yeah. And then so since then I've just been learning about religion and myself. I've learned a lot about myself. Yeah, because religion is very much like pigeonholes you and you don't really get to like do a lot of self-discovery. So yeah, that's the Cliff Notes version of my religion journey.
That's like the abbreviated Cliff Notes version of the journey.
Yeah.
Well, I for one am happy you're not religious anymore.
Me too.
Because we wouldn't be together.
Yeah. Nope. Because my family is very much against
the fact that we both have vaginas.
Exactly. That's the clincher.
Yeah, it is. It really is.
Because they don't care that I'm attracted to women. It's the fact that I'm dating one.
And marrying one.
I know. The horror of
Scandalous.
it.
Yeah, that's the weird aspect of it where it's like, yeah, you can have these attractions. You just can't do anything about it. Oh, that sounds great.
Yeah,
sign me up.
Miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah. Well, it was actually at the point we've known each other since we were 4 years old. And when we started dating, her mother actually stopped talking to me for a bit. Like wouldn't even acknowledge that I was there.
That was fun. Now we just don't acknowledge she exists.
Pretty much. That's pretty much how it goes. And that's if we're there.
Yeah.
Which is a rare occasion.
My family is a can of worms.
We'll go back to back. Make Kristina talk. How come Nancy and Kirstin have segments on the show and they are sitting in the corner just crying silently, or not silently because you have a microphone? Kevin puts the mute button on. Probably he's got the power.
I think I get muted.
No, actually, the best thing.
There's a lot of nodding camera motion. I don't know what the deal is.
The best thing about being on the podcast for me is having the segment, because when Kevin pulled us all together and talked about his vision for the show, there actually was a segment called This Day in History. And the more Kevin was talking, the more I realized I can do this podcast because I will have something to fall back on. I don't have to always depend on the ad lib or being quick or being intellectual about a subject and faking it because I know nothing about it. But I realized that if I had a segment and I could use that segment to get into conversations and use it as a springboard, that was my niche. That was the way I could really contribute. And besides, with history, you can write segments on history and have them done for a year in advance because it doesn't change.
I mean, Nancy, you were there.
Exactly.
Oh.
So to be able to have
her journal,
historical things that were funny, that were weird, that would transition into really good conversations, I loved it. I mean, Kevin gave me the opportunity to do exactly what I love to do the most, and that is to have something that stimulates a conversation afterward. So it's a lot of fun for me.
Mm-hmm.
So what did history have to do with top 10 snacks?
Well, the top 10 came after I did about 3 years of history. And then after that, pretty much the same thing over and over. You talk about August the 12th. It's not going to change whether it's 1899 or 2020. So I decided we needed a new perspective and something else that would stimulate conversations. And I thought this had a wider appeal, maybe because it covered all kinds of cultural things, political things, whatever you want. There's a top 10 for everything. So that's been kind of fun.
And
do it that way
it'll
too.
open so much fun conversation about random things.
Yeah.
Yes.
And we kind of need a break in the middle of talking about horrible things.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can do top 10 a year in advance, so I never have to, wonder, what am I going to do this week? What am I going to do next week? It's done. I get on, we do it, and I love everybody, and I go home, and it's marvelous.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But back to your actual question that started this. You were asking what I personally have a segment that I do every week. And that is mainly because with my mental health does not give me like the consistency that I would need to be able to do that. So yeah, it's mainly just mental health reasons.
Yeah, but the wonderful thing is Kristina's like our little spark plug. We never know.
I like the ad lib.
There's nothing taboo. We can start one topic and morph into something else faster than you can snap your fingers. And it doesn't make any difference. Kristina's always there. She brings something to the conversation, and we're happy to have that. That's part of why we mesh as well as we do. So it's really good for Kristina just to be able to flow, to go with the flow. Works out perfectly for us.
It does. And then how I ended up doing another brilliant moment is I originally didn't have a segment. This was one that Kevin was actually doing. And I don't know if you've noticed, but a lot of the topics we talk about are politics or getting into religion, which neither topic is something I am extremely well versed in. So I'm kind of silent except for the odd sarcastic comment. And then
but they're always gold.
They are always gold. That's my shining moments right there. And I think Kevin just wanted help the one week and he asked if I could do it.
To be fair, he does a lot of work for the podcast.
He does. He absolutely does. So I was like, yeah, I can do it.
I'm just a freeloader over here.
I'm like, can you give me a couple sources so I can, attempt to do this? And so I did it and everyone loved it. And I have continued to do it ever since.
Oh yeah, and it's great because Kirstin brings just the right amount of snarky to it, and it's always a great topic. And then by the time she gives her spin to it, it's even better. I mean, it was a segment that was just made for her to come along and take it over. It's great.
You take the person that is the least knowledgeable about the religions, and you ask this person to look and find another brilliant moment in religion, and I can just look at all of this and say you are a bunch of morons.
See, where I would look at it and be like just depressed because I'm like, oh god, it's still going on. The world is horrible.
It's okay.
I want to leave.
I depress you guys sometimes, but I usually try to make you laugh.
Like the swishy lady.
Like the swishy lady.
I love the swishy lady.
Well, with characters like Dave Daubenmire, do you almost think that they aren't real because they almost seem created in a lab to give atheist podcasters material?
Right.
Like, no one actually believes this. And then you're like, oh, these people have like 100,000 followers and like they do a podcast with their iPhone and they make a living doing it. Obviously, we're in the wrong business.
Yeah. I mean,
we picked the wrong side. Sorry, everybody.
The day I run out of quality content, I think will be a good day.
Right. Oh, I look forward to that day.
I think we all do.
But it's a fun show. I hope you don't. I hope it goes on forever. I really do.
Well,
because there's so much there. I mean, you've got the pin that pricks the balloon, and that it just works.
It's usually
so many
like
ways.
I see something and then I'm just like, yeah, this just baffles my mind. I could talk about this forever. See, that's what I'm talking about on the show.
If I did another brilliant moment in religion, it would just be rage.
It would just be you screaming into the microphone. We wouldn't even get through the story.
Oh, I would just be sitting there like screaming. Like, that would be the segment. Hence why I don't do it.
You've done it for me on occasion when I haven't been able to.
Have I?
You have.
I don't remember this. It's another thing with me. My memory, horrible.
It's good not. Yeah, sometimes you don't want to remember. It's like the body protecting itself in a way.
It is.
Yeah, this show is how we all know it's Saturday.
For a second, my brain's like, wait, it's not Sunday.
Exactly.
And do you now refer to yourself as the award-winning Left at the Valley podcast? And is there like an actual trophy you won, and did it get cut into quarters, or did Kevin just take it?
I personally don't, because I always forget.
I usually don't. And if there is a trophy, Kevin's hiding it on us.
Yeah, Kevin.
Or it
Where's
was
my
made of chocolate and
trophy?
he ate it.
Oh, there's the thought.
I like
Or is it made of beer?
Oh, there's another
Canadian
thought.
beer. Sorry.
Beer and chips.
no, it would be made of maple syrup. If we're being truthful, it would be made of maple
Yes.
syrup.
Yes, it would.
No, it was a wonderful award, and the way Indy wrote about us was really it was a fantastic review. I mean, that it was of us was really an honor, but the review itself was so well written, and he caught the essence of who we are, and we're really proud to have had the award. Really are. It's a great honor for us.
Well, I think two aspects of a winning podcast, usually subject matter, and then would you listen to the host talk about something that has nothing to do with the show? And in your case, well, you talk about anything. Like you're talking about best snacks, and then hamburgers and cheeseburgers come up. And then I get to hear, what are the Canadian fast food restaurants? Oh, now I know the names. Sure. Yeah.
Well, some of those conversations are the funnest. Like, I love when the show goes off the rail. And
That is my favorite part.
we're just talking about random things, because it's like
That's where I live.
sometimes when the world is just horrible and Donald Trump is just fucking shit up and religion's just fucking shit up, it's really nice to just be like, okay, what's your favorite candy?
Or, discuss the difference between a hamburger and a cheeseburger.
Yeah, okay. I still don't understand why people would, like, why would you eat a hamburger without cheese? I don't understand.
No, I think that's why.
I don't understand, guys.
Yeah,
I just
I think-
don't understand. What's the world coming to?
I think part of why people listen to us, they start listening to us because we're an atheist podcast, and they want that kind of content.
They
But
come
I
for the
think they
content and
stick-
stay for the crazy.
Yeah, I think they stick with us because we're entirely unpredictable. Nobody ever knows what they're going to get, and
You're
it's
right.
really nice because you can listen to us for 10 minutes, and then the next 10 minutes is totally separate from the first 10 minutes. And I think that makes it engaging for the listeners. I
Mhm.
think it's thought-provoking for them. We're naturally funny. We don't have to force it, so they can laugh
At least
along
that's
with
what we
us.
tell ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. So I think the element, if people are expecting something because we're an atheist podcast, put your expectations aside. This is real life, and this is
Yeah.
us. Enjoy. Come join the party. We're
Yeah.
having fun here.
I definitely feel like us being in the same room,
Yeah.
being able to interact, not just with voice or
Yeah.
like faces. It's a lot to do with body language.
We can throw things at each other, mainly
Exactly.
Kevin.
Yeah.
I mean, you're close to each other.
Yeah.
So I think that gives us an aspect of more like comfort with each other, and it brings something to our show that I would say most other podcasts don't have, because a lot of other podcasts, they're in different parts of the country or they're in their own houses, and which I really enjoy being able to like interact with you guys.
I
'Cause
hope
then
you'll be
when
able-
Kevin's talking, we can just be making funny faces at each other.
Which we do all the time.
Yeah.
But I hope you enjoy interacting with me.
I would hope so. We are getting married. So.
Yes, we are.
No, I secretly hate you, Kirstin. I'm sorry. I haven't been able to share this yet. It's been on my heart for a long time, and I don't know how to tell you this, but like I think we need to break up. I'm sorry.
Fine, I'll just go to my other partners.
I'm sorry.
I think the demon is taken over from the Super Bowl halftime show. So
Oh my.
the demons.
I enjoy ad lib.
See, My attempts to break up the show, I was thinking I was getting there, but not so much.
You pierced through our armor and our weaknesses.
So I joke that like Canada is a myth, but apparently it exists, and Pacific time is clearly a myth. So you actually get together at like 9 a.m. on Saturday. I think
Don't remind me.
I've done one episode of the Minnesota podcast where it was like 9 a.m. Otherwise, 3 o'clock is as early as I can do. Is it tough to do? Like, you have to kind of be on to get started, because when you do the show, I mean, maybe you record it in opposite order, and Kevin's a secret wizard, but you start by doing the talk amongst yourself, and you have to be on from like minute one. Is that a tough thing to do, or is it just like, hey, we're there? Once you're in the studio, which has a closet, I see. So that's really good for audio. So nice.
I think,
and you're out of it, so that's good too.
We're in a room together, and that we're just hanging out with friends. It's like on Saturday, sometimes you go hang out with friends, and like that's what we're doing. We're hanging out with
9 a.m.
Yeah. Actually, no, it's 10 o'clock. Give us an extra hour. But
yeah, it is 10 o'clock.
I think that, and I know I'm bragging about all of us, but I think we really love each other, and we look forward to coming together at 10 o'clock. Then we know we've got the rest of the day free, which is good for us. But it's really not. We'll come in and we'll be a little sleepy, and sometimes we talk before the show, sometimes we don't. But the minute Kevin says we're on, all of a sudden we're on. And we just start talking, and Kevin leads us with some chit chat at the beginning, which is good because he gives us a starting point. But we're happy being on when the music starts and Kevin starts the chit chat. That's why we're here. That's why we look forward to it every single Saturday. We're just happy to do this. And sometimes we record shows in the evening when a guest can't make it, and we do the same thing. We're happy to do it.
And to be totally fair,
Kevin makes his coffee.
Yeah, Kevin makes his coffee.
I am always at my top game. Yeah. As consistent listeners will know, there are some times where I'm like,
but I mean, like, we all have off days. That's part of being human. I mean, I've had off days where like another brilliant moment might be a little, not as funny, or I might just like bring y'all down.
Yeah.
But that's okay, because we accept each other the way we are. We all bumble and stumble, and if we're tired, so we're tired. But somehow we pull it through, and it's a show, and we've enjoyed it, or sometimes we're embarrassed by it. But we go on, show. And we've been doing this for a long time, and we want to keep doing it for a long time.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to mention the weed show because I still don't remember that interview.
Have you not gone back and listened to it? Kirstin, it's like the best.
I will have to.
Okay, for context for the people listening, when weed became legal in Canada, we did a show where we all got high, except Nancy. She was the
responsible
sober brain in the room.
The control.
Exactly. And so we all got high, and it was amazing, except for Kevin chewing his fucking chips. That.
You were like a kid.
Oh, God.
That was probably the one thing that I'm like, Kevin, I'm going to check something at your face. But I was in too happy of a space to even think about that.
Because you were looking at your ring with the phone, with the light on your phone.
Because apparently weed makes me be able to see colors that I did not see before. So
I still have pictures of that.
Yeah. So it was just a really fun show. And for me, it's probably one of my favorites.
Yeah, it's one of mine.
Was that 9 a.m. you did pot, or?
Yes, it was actually.
Yeah, it was.
And we brought munchies. It was great.
Then we went home. We were watching Alien, and you fell asleep. So I figured, well, I'm just going to stop it. I'm going to go have a nap.
Yeah, weed is good.
Weed is good. Well, I've heard it's a weird thing in America because, like, some state, like Illinois, has just passed it. And people were like, they take like an edible and they're like, I don't feel it right away. Because you drink a beer, you feel it right away. And like sometimes people will take more, and that's a mistake because they'll be screwed up for like a week. And it's really strong from what I hear. So that's good. Way to go, Canada.
Kevin can attest to that.
Yeah.
I think we all thought the same thing.
But
And
Kevin, you
I can
cannot tell
see-
your story because you're on mute.
his face is now like, oh God, please do not tell that story about when I was given an edible, didn't feel anything, and decided to take another and bigger
He needed
piece.
to go to the hospital because he did not handle his weed correctly. We love you.
So
Kevin.
you're not going to do that again in the near future? Is that like a one-time deal? Or
He learned.
He did learn. his
Oh,
lesson.
but us with weed on the show, I don't think we would. That would be fun to try again.
No,
We should film ourselves this time.
we're up for
It'll
it.
just
I
be
mean,
me.
Yeah, you
well,
were.
you can do it with the video camera.
we're up for like.
Although I don't know if the cameraman being high would help the recording or not. I don't know. It's hard to say.
He would probably just like, oh, look it's doing colorful pictures.
Like when I showed you that picture of the trees.
Okay, that was the most gorgeous picture ever.
We haven't
We'll
done the one where
tackle
we get drunk
anything.
yet.
It doesn't make any difference what
Yeah.
the topic is. We're up for. I don't think there's been anything
Okay.
that crosses a line. We don't have any lines.
Yeah.
We just
No.
do it. Get it out there.
We definitely find ourselves talking about a wide variety of
Mhm.
topics, from
Yeah.
everything from religion and atheism to politics to our community things, like things that impact our community. Like I think we've talked to someone about fisheries, or science. We talk about science. So it's like Nancy was saying before, it's definitely not a predictable show, which is nice because then we don't get bored and we always get to learn new things, which I love.
And I certainly hope our listeners don't get bored.
No, I don't think so.
Hopefully not.
They may get uncomfortable.
Yeah,
but they don't
sometimes
get bored.
sometimes we do get pretty personal on the show, but like you get to know us.
Yeah.
Well, let me do. So this is going to be a semi-random American asking a Canadian a question. So
Excited.
somebody pick a number between 1 and 3.
3.
2.
Well, we may ask all the questions if their quick answers are quick. So I heard 3 first. So is hockey still a sport?
Yes.
Since America stole your teams, well, most of them,
We still beat you guys.
except the only team that moved from America to Canada was Atlanta. I'm actually wearing an Atlanta
Nice.
Flames jersey. Atlanta hosted 2 NHL teams that moved back to Canada. So so you should love Atlanta because we can't support hockey.
To be
somehow.
totally honest, I find hockey boring. So I don't
see that.
get
Neither do
I
I,
find most sports boring.
unless they involve horses.
I was about to say my sport, show jumping, that is the sport I watch. Just so I can listen to this. I'm so weird.
Get you the coconuts.
Okay, that is low-key like the best movie ever. Yeah. So hockey, definitely still a sport, but no way not as popular as Americans probably think it is in Canada. But whatevs.
Like in my household, it was baseball. Not gonna lie.
We didn't watch sports in my household.
I didn't say I watched it. It was just always on the TV.
Just on, yeah. Yeah, there's not an actual sports team called the Fighting Mennonites, although that would be kind of awesome.
Now that would be entertaining.
They would be curlers, not hockey players.
Yeah.
So we've gone, more than 30 minutes of the show without talking about how you've gotten into a podcast feud to get listeners, and I have to show for all the people actually watching. So what's the deal with you and Secular Soup? I don't even know who started it. Like
Kevin.
Kevin.
All
That was
the
quick.
blame rests on Kevin's shoulders. It's all Kevin. Blame Kevin.
It's like that song Blame Canada. Blame Kevin.
Wait, there's a song called Blame Canada?
Yeah, that was in the South Park movie. If you haven't checked it out, you'd probably like it.
I haven't.
I don't even remember how this started.
I think it was on Twitter. Am I
Was it on
correct?
Twitter?
Was it Twitter?
Oh, it was Twitter.
Don't go on Twitter.
It's always Twitter's fault. Yes.
Oh, I know, right? Gross. Yeah. But it's kind of just been fun.
Mm-hmm.
Fake fights are fun.
They are. Because at the end of the day, we all love each other. We all get along really well.
Yeah.
But we're taking him down.
I think that's been part of the fun of doing the podcast has really been making friends with the other podcasters, because they have their own point of view. They have their own how they all got together, and we learned from them, and we were able to have wonderful conversations about just about anything, with the podcasters. So learning about them and being friendly with them and being able to have them as guests over and over, that's a special joy for us as well. I think that maybe that's another good word. We're so diverse. The four of us are extremely diverse, and then the other people that we bring in as guests are as well. So I think that's a quality of why we never get bored, and we love the diversity of us and them. It works really well for us.
Yeah, and I mean, in daily life, like, how often do you get to talk to like authors or scientists or musicians? And it's like, it's kind of normal now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, this weekend we're going to talk to, David Fitzgerald or somebody else. It's like
or Aaron Ra.
Yeah. I still haven't done an episode with Aaron Ra.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we would never have the chance to do that, without Kevin's dream of having a podcast. So we're, I hate to say this, we are beholden to him, aren't we?
I know, it's weird. The best part is I follow Aaron Ra on Facebook, and he's actually in Africa right now. And the first picture he shared was a beer. I'm like, of course, Aaron Ra went to Africa and found a milk stout, because that's the kind of guy he is.
Yeah, he's one of the few people that we've had in studio as well as on the podcast, and just audio, and he's just awesome. He's just fantastic in every possible way. We just love him. We're glad he takes the time to be on our show when he can. He's always come through for us too when we've asked him, which is great.
Yeah, I found in this community, for the most part, it's like if you can't get someone on, they'll be on. They're like, not now instead of no. So that's a good sign, because it is a bit of a niche. So where exactly are you located, and what is like the atheist community like in your area? Do you get involved in real life, actually meeting with people kind of things? Because it sounds like that's how all of you met.
Yeah, we're about an hour outside of Vancouver. We're in a ridiculously Christian town.
Ironically,
it's thankfully I didn't grow up in this town. I grew up in the more secular town next door, which was a little better.
In the boonies.
Yeah, I grew up in the boonies.
Yeah.
The sticks. I would say the atheist community in where we live is not super tight knit, because like right now there's not really any like meetups, but it's not hard to meet other atheists. And even when you do meet Christians, most of the time, if you say you're not religious or you're an you're not like, the sign of you're the devil worshiper. So it's way better than most of America.
Yeah, it is the Bible Belt of British Columbia. I mean, we have we have what 150,000 population and 100 churches. So there's pretty much a church on almost every corner. We used to have a very active group that met once a week, but it just sort of petered out. So we don't have the consistency of meeting with other atheists, but we run into them, and we also have a forum that's pretty active. About 300 people that interact with each other every week. So not all 300, but at least the potential is there. The Fraser Valley Atheist Skeptics and Humanists. So we like that, but we're in the minority, but that's okay
because we're still here.
We're here.
Mm-hmm.
So do you already have like a priority list? Since two of you live together, there'll be 3 potential couches. Like, will there be a waiting list for the couches for us to move into around, I don't know, early November this year?
We have the Underground Railroad being set up. Yes.
Yes.
Yes. We are working on it. We probably shouldn't talk about it in public because the FBI is always listening.
Yeah, just don't wear a MAGA hat at the border. Just MAGA hats, but everybody else, Underground Railroad, the engine's getting ready.
Yeah.
Well, I'll try to smuggle over as many American beers and cheeseburgers as I can, because
Well, there's a couch with your name on it.
we do both of them well over here. Well, as we're getting toward the end, usually at the end I ask guests to either show a special talent or to tell a joke. So all three of you get an opportunity. You've had a lot of time to think about it. I'm sure you've totally forgotten about it during the interview because that's what happens. So feel free to share.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily a talent, but it's something that I consider kind of impressive. I have successfully herded chickens, ducks, and geese all at once. In like one go.
If anyone's interacted with those three species, they will understand that's a fucking talent.
It sounds
because ducks stay together.
There might be another video to do. So there you go, Kevin. We're going to your to-do list has just grown. You're welcome.
Well, Kevin's given me a talent that we've had a lot of fun with on the show. And to tell you the truth, I don't know exactly the moment that it started, but as it turns out, I'm a professional assassin. And I've been here for at least 5,000 years. And some of the assassinations have been so subtle that you don't even realize an assassination has taken place. It's like a natural death. So we have a lot of fun with my ability to move around the world very subtly and to blend in. I mean, you don't see too many 83-year-old little old ladies as assassins, but I've been able to get away with it. So I thank Kevin for that talent. We've really enjoyed using it on the show in a lot of different ways.
Definitely. So my talent might take a tiny bit of explanation. So do you remember recently there was this massive conversation about like internal monologues? Like how some people have them, some people don't. Do you remember?
I've heard that.
Okay. So on a sidebar of that, there's also like the internal, it's like the internal eye where you can like visualize things. Do you know what that is?
No.
Okay. Well, it's like when someone asks you like picture a green circle and like sometimes like people like can picture that green circle in their head. So my brain, my awesome talent is I have like an internal world in my head that like I can interact with like parts of my brain to like kind of process things. It's a fascinating thing. And I personally find it a talent because most people aren't able to do it.
I mean, I can attest to it. It's pretty fascinating and it takes a fair bit of talent to do it.
Yeah. And yeah, so if you people know what like that internal eye is, it's like this is very similar to like that internal eye, but it's like more of an internal representation of like my brain and like the processes and like different like interacting with like parts that are like, say, like when you're young and like you tried to like tell your parents something and they like shot you down and that sticks with you. I can like interact with like the part of my brain that like took that. So yeah, it's a fascinating talent that I am not explaining very well right now. Yeah.
I mean, it's almost like being a writer and creating, like you're working on a book and you're creating that world and you're able to kind of interact with it and go, well, what would these two characters do if they had a conversation, that kind of thing. So I can see it.
Very similar.
And let's see. So you'll have to say this really, really quick because the audio might somehow disappear real quick.
Okay.
Who has prepared any kind of roast of Kevin?
Oh, Kevin is a roast of himself.
See, you don't have to do it. I don't think we can top that. I think the assassination just happened. I think
Kristina just got muted.
Someone will never be on audio ever again.
No,
I just broke up the podcast with one comment. No, it's not happening.
no, Kevin pays me to say nice things about him, so I can't go. I
You
can't
get
do
paid?
anything else. Uh-oh.
I don't get paid.
I thought you got paid.
You get paid in poutine.
I thought we were all getting paid.
No.
Oh my! I didn't. Kevin.
We all get paid the same amount.
Oh my god.
Okay, so for the people who haven't caught the video of this, you have really missed out this week. And my cat is crying and crying at my door, so it probably means it's about time to end the show. So how do people find Left at the Valley?
By accident.
I'm
Well,
sorry, award-winning Left at the Valley.
you can find us on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, just by searching Left at the Valley. We have a Facebook group. We have a Twitter. We have a
Somewhere.
Patreon. Don't ask me what you have to search for all these things. Kevin knows them.
It's usually Kevin that does the shtick, but
This is Kevin's areas of expertise.
if you have any questions for us, you can send us an email
Yes!
at leftatthevalley@outlook.com.
us.
Yeah.
It makes me very happy.
I once had to do the shtick when I hosted the show, so
Emails make me happy.
we love getting mail. Okay,
We do.
we really do. We get really excited.
We do like the whole like mail time from Blue's Clues. We don't actually, but I do it in my head. I'm sorry.
Sounds about right.
But you're my weirdo.
I'll show myself out.
You can't. You're stuck in the room. Well, thank you, Nancy, Kirstin, and Kristina for being on, and thanks, Kevin, for amazing camera work
And
Very-
keeping
and for not doing pot before, because my gosh, that would have been
Thanks,
probably
Zach. It's been a
would
lot
have
of
been hard to tell the difference. Anyway,
Abortions for all. Very well. No abortions for anyone. Abortions for some, miniature American flags for others.
Live read. I got asked by this week's guests if I listened to their show, and I had to be honest. I don't regularly listen to any atheist shows, but I love y'all. I really do. I finally got back on the right to reason train, as this week's show is a debate, an abortion debate between a prepared woman, Dr. Valerie Tarico, in favor of women's reproductive freedom, and a guy named Chris who was not. The key for this one working was respect between the speakers who were ready to talk about this subject, although there was a little bit of dodging questions. Honestly, it felt like a disagreement regarding when life begins. The anti-abortion side is tie goes to the zygote when it refers to rights. Anyway, you might want to throw things, but at least you'll hear both sides being prepared. And the anti-abortion guy says jerking off is not a crime or genocide, which is good, because, yeah, that could be bad for someone I know. If you want to support this show, be like Freethinker215, Alan Marks, Human, Chris of the Postmodern Polymath Podcast, Larry, Daryl, and the other Daryl, one of those is me. Support the show on Patreon, patreon.com/Zachrilege, Zachrilege, and you too can get bonus cat videos when I remember to post them. Follow me on Twitter at Zachrilege, like my Zachrilege cast page on Facebook, send all mail to zachrilege.cast@gmail.com. Thanks to Nancy, Kirstin, and Kristina for being on this week, and at least Kevin now knows where he stands. This week's Black Free Thought quote comes from Nikki Giovanni. Black people have been willing to die for damn near everything on the earth. It's to show what we are willing to kill for. It's hard to top that, so I'll tell you that I will bring on the blue-collar heathen, and he's way funnier than that comedy tour. Until next time, let's continue the conversation.